Welcome to KMVT Camp Presents. I'm Suzanne Barnett, your host, and I'm so looking forward to introducing our guest, Colin King Baily. Colin, you are an artist and an art teacher, and we're all so glad you're here.
Well, thanks very much.
So tell us, what is it like to be an artist and an art teacher?
What is it like to be well, trying to make it as an artist is difficult. It's a struggle. It's a constant struggle. And being an art teacher, I teach homeschool kids mostly, so I'm entirely self-employed, always having to hit the pavement, trying to find new students, but it's rewarding. It's worth it. It's a lifestyle that I couldn't give up. I don't think I could handle an office job or what have you.
Well, because you're an artist.
Right.
But one of the things that you're so interested in now is the summer camp. That's a KMVT summer camp group?
No, it's a completely independent venture.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. No, it's just me. Just me and a bunch of kids that I'm going to take up to Rancho San Antonio. Here's west of 280. There's this gigantic, fabulous park, Rancho San Antonio. So there's a working demonstration farm there. We're going to spend a day drawing animals. Mostly we're going to hike and draw and paint landscapes, trees and whatnot.
Well, you have a picture here. Tell us about that.
This is a student of mine, so I teach mostly homeschool kids. This image is by a student of mine. He's 14, and this is something like what we'll be doing in the summer camp. We'll do some charcoal and some pencil graphite drawing, but then the week will culminate with a ink and wash landscape drawing, which is what this is. This is ink and wash.
And how old is that student?
He's 14.
14.
So that's about the age group of the summer camp, 12 to 14.
I see. Is that your favorite age?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
I like that junior high age group because they're in full command of their manual dexterity. Younger kids, their hands simply they don't have the motor skills to draw like an adult. Kids hit, 6th grade kind of age, 11 years old, and have every ability to draw better than most adults that because they've got their fine motor skills are well developed, and cognitive abilities are pretty well developed, pretty adult-like as well. So you can introduce some much more sophisticated concepts that are a lot more fun and interesting to teach for me.
Plus the fact that we adults are so self-critical.
Yeah, right. And kids are just open, impressionable. Adults have a lot of mental blocks and hang-ups that prevent them from learning to draw. A lot of adults just simply believe they can't draw, whereas, have you ever met a kid that can't draw?
Never.
Or that doesn't like to draw?
Yeah. So that's it. Now tell us about this picture.
This is another landscape by the same 14-year-old from Los Altos. This is also ink.
They have such good, what do you call it, where you can see in the distance?
Like a sense of depth. Yeah, absolutely.
Sense of depth. Yeah.
I mean, that's really what we're going for in representational drawing, when drawing from life, that sense of dimensionality, form, space.
Well, tell us about the summer camp. Just tell us about what would happen in one particular day.
Well, so in one day, parents will drop off their kids in the parking lot, and we'll all rally together at the trailhead and probably do some stretching to warm up. Everyone's got to bring water and sunscreen and a hat, very important. And then we'll hike for 1 to 2 miles to get to some kind of vista or a nice spot that I've picked out to draw. There are some fabulous both views at Rancho San Antonio, big wide open vistas with trees in the distance, but then also some really cool little cloisters, shadowy cloisters overshadowed by trees that will make really interesting drawings and paintings as well. So we'll hike there and we'll sit and draw for a little while, for a couple of hours, and then we've got a lunch break, and then we may hike somewhere else and do some more drawing. There will usually be a little bit of instruction in the beginning, maybe 10 minutes to a half hour of instruction, and then the rest of the day will be spent drawing, hiking to drawing spots, and lunch, snack breaks, stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's not an overnight experience.
It's just the day camp. It's 6
Yeah.
hours a day,
Yeah.
Monday to Friday.
Yeah. And I'm sure this wonderful crew knows how to get in touch with you.
You can go to ckingbaily.com.
Spell it.
That's CKINGBAILEY.com.
Okay.
And all the information about the summer camp is there, how to sign up, etc. There are no images there yet, but you can see images here.
Yeah, right here. So what do you get out of it? I mean, what happens when you teach? How does it make you feel?
Well, my goal in teaching is just to offer kids the opportunity to learn how to draw and paint anything they can see before their eyes or anything that they can see in their mind's eye, because I've been drawing my whole life. And I think I was pushed to draw, I was encouraged to draw. You know, parents think that certain kids draw well and other kids don't draw well, but I think really every kid draws well. It's just a matter of what you're pushed into or not. So I was sort of pushed into drawing because of some, I don't know, quirky ability. But I never had access to real drawing instruction. You know, most public school art education is pretty broad, pretty artsy, craftsy. You'll do just as much clay as you'll do drawing from life, as you'll do collage, as you'll do, etc. So I really want to give kids access to learning how to draw in sort of an old school, traditional, representational way.
But how does it make you feel?
How does it make me
these
feel?
Kids, yeah.
Exhilarated, thrilled. When I see, when a student turns out something like this, it makes me think that, well, it just restores my faith in people's ability to really learn something and focus on something and take an absolute interest in a passion like drawing.
Isn't it interesting? All the people that I've interviewed, I always ask that question, and the word passion always shows up. And that's what makes life really worth living, is that if you could find, like these young people today on the KMVT crew, you know, I just envy them because they've got their whole life ahead, and you know, perhaps this particular thing will make them passionate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, getting back to you, Colin, do you feel that the homeschooled kids are easier to teach than regular public schools? You
know, it depends somewhat, but teaching in homes and teaching smaller groups is definitely way better than the chaos of the public school classroom, right? I mean, 30, 35 kids and just one teacher is really a crazy ratio. So having just 1 to 4 kids in a class, we get so much more done. And homeschool kids really have incredible focus. Most of them that I work with are well advanced compared to their peers in at least 1 or 2 subjects. But really the focus and academic interest, you know, going to public school, academics are not often the public interest, or not often the kids' interest. But these homeschool kids they're just more interested in what they're doing. And maybe that's because they can tool their curriculum to their particular interests.
How many, do you have any idea what the percentage of homeschool kids are compared to, you know, the public schools? You
mean like in Silicon Valley and on the peninsula in general?
Yeah, let's say Silicon Valley.
I really don't know. I do know it's a small community, and it's sort of a splintered community too. Like, I know that I've kind of networked myself into a group of moms that call themselves the secular homeschool group. So that's a very small group of maybe 8 moms, sort of loosely attached to Ocean Grove Charter School, which is a homeschool charter school located in the Santa Cruz Mountains. So that's one way to find homeschool kids, that there are charter schools for homeschools around. So that's one way to get access to
But
these
so
communities.
many times both parents are working because of our economy. And so that's not really viable, is it?
Yeah, you're right. It's hard to homeschool kids
Yeah.
unless you've got a parent that can stay home, which is the case for most of the families I teach for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're practically at the end of our show. What do you envision, very quickly, of you doing in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I would
yeah.
like to keep doing summer camps like this. I would like to do more art education for kids with more specific focus. So I would like to do some short classes on, say, just the human figure, or a short class on, say, a 6 to 10 week class on perspective, things like that. And it would be the kind of thing that I could do in any facility anywhere around here. So I could do, you know, the Community School for Music and Arts, or I could do a rec center, or outdoors like at Rancho San Antonio. Basically that.
Well, I think it's just so wonderful that you're working with the school, and I want to thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Suzanne.
And I want to thank our absolutely fabulous crew. I can't wait to see how this show turns out. And of course, I always say this, and I wish to thank our audience for watching, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, you're very good.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Welcome to KMVT Camp Presents. I'm Suzanne Barnett, your host, and today I am so excited to welcome the geek, the brilliant geek, Bill Lindeman. Bill, we've known each other, you've worked on my shows for years, and this is the first time that I have the honor to talk to you. How did you get started with all this fantastic technology?
Well, depends on whether you want to go back way far. We were talking before the show, and I think I mentioned that I had a couple toys that when I was like 4 or 5 that were mechanical, and I disassembled them to see how they worked because I was really curious about how things work at a fundamental level. And of course, my mother didn't like that very much. But more getting into video technology, I'm not quite sure what it is about images that excites me. Maybe you know, I just had an affinity for, you know, watching TV shows as a kid and imagining other scenes from them and kind of imagining how the camera angles would be.
Really?
So I've always had somewhat of an interest in this. Yeah, in fact, I got catalogs when I was in high school and was starting to learn a little bit of electronics. I got catalogs from surplus places and sort of dreamed of maybe being able to set up some video at home, but back then that was way out of individuals' range. I did go to a high school that had a reel-to-reel tape, black and white television set up with 2 cameras, and that was like really special thing that they had, that they only, you know, dragged out for like taping the school play or things like that.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, reel-to-reel tape, basically big reels like this, inch-wide tape or half-inch wide.
But what are you going to talk about today?
Well, I guess Mark, our wonderful recruiter, producer, executive producer, volunteer here, found the arrangement that I have at home for editing video with other people. Basically, it's a projection display, so I have equivalent of about 100-inch just diagonal display on the wall, but it's a projector, so all I have on the wall is the screen.
And how big is the screen?
80 by 60 inches.
My heavens, where did you get that?
I got it online from B&H Photo Video in New York, where a lot of us get most of our.
Yeah.
They just have a lot of stuff, so it's, you know.
So now what do you do? You're talking about the projector.
Well, I'll give you a little history of it because
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. what I do now is basically I use it for work with, when people come over, I do editing of various things on shows, a little bit of special effects for some shows that have been shot on community television or some outside projects in the community amateur field. I started basically, I started viewing it by saying it was really a medical expense, oddly enough. That was because I was rather too sedentary. In fact, I am still too sedentary. And I was tending to get a little bit of water retention edema, as they call it medically, in my feet. And my doctor said, you know, if you don't keep your feet up, sit there for 6 to 8 hours a day in a chair, don't move, and, you know, have your feet down, this is going to get worse. So I said, well, let's see, what can I do? I can get a projector and display the computer display on the wall. I can get a wireless keyboard and a wireless mouse and a lazy boy recliner. And oh, there goes the recliner, and then I sit back down like that, and my feet are roughly at the level of my heart like the doctor required.
Yeah.
Now, there are probably other ways I could have done it, so definitely I chose one that gave me some electronic toys to play with, and like you say, I am a
geek indeed. So what is it, how does this work, though? I mean, could you tell us that so we could understand it?
Well, basically, my living room is kind of organized around this. I've got this screen, as I say, it's, you know, 80 by 60 inches is what? 512 or 60? Yeah. 5 feet by like 7.5 feet, 8 feet. So that takes up basically most of one wall. And then I have my, as I say, my recliner there. And then there's a projector behind me about 6 feet, you know, above head level, about 7 feet above the ground. And it's, you know, a piece of digital electronics that has, you know, display, what? Actually, it's an array of tiny, tiny mirrors. It's like a computer chip with a lot of tiny mirrors on it, called a digital light processing chip. And that basically, they can flip the mirror to either show the light or turn the light away. So that allows each pixel to come out, you know, from a big light bulb.
And did you invent this?
No, no, no. There are many on the market. I started, this is my second projector I'm on. I started with one that was kind of lower resolution. Now I've got full HD. But I didn't invent anything. I basically, you know, picked and chose among the technologies that was available at the time, and then a year and a half ago when I upgraded the projector. And there's a lot of choices out there.
So you can actually, like, could you put a movie on?
Oh yeah, I often do.
You can do. So this projector actually does how many different things?
Well, for me, it's basically my computer display, you know, widescreen TV for watching movies with friends. I have friends that come over regular on weekends, and we watch DVDs of stuff, of various TV shows and sometimes movies. It's also my display for working on video editing projects with people who come over, because rather than, you know, a little display like this or even one like that, crowding in around it, you know, you've got the whole wall there. Everybody can just sit back and relax and not hunch together and knock noggins trying to see the screen.
So I'm going to ask you this question, because you're so bright, intelligent, and I love that word, geek. What do you envision doing in 5 years?
That's a very good question, because, as you know, and won't wander off into that, you know, I have medical difficulties, but basically I think I'm going to be centered around, you know, using this display and hopefully working on projects with people. Basically more video, special effects, I hope. There's various indie film things around the area, and I have one person who thinks I'm probably got to the level where I might be able to help with some of those projects on post-production.
And we have to talk about the fact that you volunteer, you're a producer, you do everything at the technologically here at KMVT.
Producer is the one thing I don't do.
Oh, you don't? Oh, I thought you were a producer too.
Never produced a show.
I'm surprised. Why not?
Probably, you know, I never really thought about it specifically. I never thought, well, should I do it or not? It's basically, that's a lot of arranging for people to do things for you, but not actually doing it yourself. Like I said, I think it's all comes from this fundamental desire to know how things work and, you know, make things work at a technical level.
Do you think that people like you you're born with your brain that's wired for technology. I mean, you're very obviously left-brained. Do you think that's how you were born that way?
Mostly, yeah. I mean, definitely, as I say, I had this early interest in taking things apart and
Yeah.
just curious about things. In fact, that gets into an interesting question because over the years, in fact, recent years, I thought more and more about different kinds of intelligence. And we know, of course, there are many different kinds of mental aptitude. And I realized that one of my talents is basically being able to remember a lot of facts and draw them up as I need them. So basically, I'm working with something technical. I remember, oh yeah, there's this little detail, as opposed to someone like, think of someone like, not that I compare myself to him, but what's his name, the physicist in England who's got ALS, Hawking.
Oh yes, yes.
He basically, he obviously can't manipulate books. He has to have people to read to him, so he has to depend on either memorized facts or working out detailed patterns. So, for instance, I've never been good at chess. I've never really taken up chess or Go or any of those games that require you basically not to know a lot of facts about things, but rather to take a given set of basic rules, the rules of chess, the rules of Go, and work things out within them. So that means that there's some things I'm better at, things, like I can bring up facts pretty quickly. Not that I can't connect them, but basically I don't like the sitting down and working out the long consequences of one move in chess or something like that.
Mm-hmm. You're a real doer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have to figure out how things work, and then you work them.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have very short time left. I want to thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
and
you,
I
Suzanne.
especially want to talk about this crew of young people, the KMVT summer crew. They are they're doing the show, and I'm sure they're doing a very good job. They're lovely young people, and they're so fortunate that they have this opportunity to start with television at your young ages. And so I thank them very much. KMVT is just a fantastic facility. I don't know what I would do without it. And of course, I want to thank our audience for watching. And you know what? And this is true. I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Bill. You're just great.
Thank you.
And we'll do our show.